In the Zohar is the kind of the cornerstone of all works of Kabbalah. It says in the Zohar, the Rabbi Chia, the great Rabbi Chia, he started a Torah class by quoting a verse from the Shir Hashirim, from the Song of Songs. He quoted a verse and he explained what the verse means. The verse says as follows: Ani yishena v'libi er kol dodi dofek. I am asleep, but my heart is awake. Listen, the voice of my beloved is knocking. A verse from the Shir Hashirim. And he explained that this verse is actually referring to the soul is having a conversation with Hashem. We are telling Hashem, we're explaining to him what is going on with us while we're here in exile, while we're here in Galut. We're telling Hashem, listen, this is our experience that we're having at the moment. It's like we're sleeping. As long as we are in exile, as long as we are under the subjugation of the nations, as long as we are not free, we're living in a state of we're living in a state of exile. It's like we're living in a state of slumber. We're not fully awake. We're not completely there. Therefore, our ability to connect with Hashem is limited as well, just like someone who is asleep. However, we tell Hashem, my heart is awake, because my heart, deep down, I have a neshama. My neshama is awake. My neshama is keeping me alive. It's keeping the soul going. It's keeping the heart beating. It's keeping our lungs flowing. It's keeping us alive and keeping the connection going, so that when Mashiach comes, when we awake, when we arise, we'll be able to continue and have a relationship with Hashem just as we had before. So to fully understand this idea, this analogy of a sleeping person, that we are like in a state of slumber, we have to understand what is the difference between someone who's awake and someone who's sleeping. What changes when a person goes to sleep? How are they different than when they were awake? So really the main difference between a person who's awake and a person who's sleeping is the faculties, the functions of the body. While a person is sleeping, their basic functions are suspended, right? Their basic capabilities, their sense of smell, their sense of hearing, all that is turned off. Their cognitive and motor skills are very limited. Their blood flow is really, the limited blood flow is all focused on the vital organs, just keeping him alive. It's just about keeping him alive, keeping him going, not letting him completely lose everything. This is what happens when a person is sleeping. Kind of imagine when your phone goes into what do we call it, battery saving mode, right? When the phone goes into battery saving mode, anything extra, anything that's not absolutely vital, shuts off. And that's kind of what happens when we go to sleep. The same thing happens to our neshama, our souls, while we are in exile. That our souls are kind of in this semi-hypnotic state where we're basically, at least partially, incapacitated. Our abilities, our faculties are very limited. Our abilities to perceive and to relate to Hashem are dimmed and are basically almost shut off. They're almost, down to the basic bare necessities of staying alive. This is the experience that we have while we are in Galut, because we're asleep. Geula, on the other hand, what is the redemption? What happens when Mashiach comes and we leave our state of exile? Now we're waking up. Now the body regains consciousness. Now we regain control over all the functions of our body, all of our faculties. Now we're able to have intent and precision. We're able to relate to Hashem without going through this, this current state of hibernation with these current limitations that we have. In Geula, we're going to be awake. We're going to be freed. We're going to be able to completely relate to Hashem as it is meant to be, without having any of these limitations that were placed on us as long as we are in this state of slumber. This is the explanation that Rabbi Chia gives in the book of Zohar. Much later, we have a book called the Degel Ephraim. Degel Machane Ephraim. Degel Machane Ephraim was written in the late 18th century by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Ephraim of Sudilkov. He was a grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Chassidut. And he continues this idea, he continues to expound this idea, this analogy of being in a state of slumber while we are in exile. And he explains further that when we are in a state of slumber, what do? We dream. We live in a dream world. And he says that just like that, when we are in exile, we are also living in a dream world. As it says in Tehillim, we are like dreamers. And he says as follows, just as while asleep, a person experiences dreamy, imaginary scenes that are unrealistic. For the definition of dreaming is imagining something that is not real. So is the spiritual condition of exile, like sleeping in general. And also dreaming, where one is unable to determine what is true and what is ultimately purposeful, as it is in the realm of illusion. Yet to the dreaming individual, it all seems real. So it pertains to divine service. A person may delude himself into thinking that he is correct and that he possesses the knowledge and how to serve God. Blessed be his name. The redemption, however, is the time when the delusional state will end and God will illuminate the eyes and everyone will see what is absolutely true and abandon the falsehood of exile. So as long as we are in exile, we're in a state of dreaming. We imagine things that are not real. We are living in this imaginary state where we don't even see, we don't even understand the reality. Things that happen in a dream are not based on reality. We could be in one place and dream that we're in a completely different place. And we can dream about things that are not even possible. We can dream about, suspending the laws of gravity, or as flying through the sky, or as the Talmud says, we can imagine in a dream an elephant fitting through the eye of a needle. Because in a dream, everything is possible. Nothing is limited by reality. And in a dream, you can have extreme opposites, both being true at the same time. Another thing that happens when we dream is we lose our sense of priority. Things that should be important to us, things that we should be able to see how important it is, feel like it's not important at all. And other things that have no importance in reality, in a dream, they take on a new level of importance, where it's the focus of all of our energy and concentration. It completely can take over us, even though in reality, it's something that has no value at all to us. The world that we live in can often feel like we are dreaming while we're awake, because all sense of priorities are completely distorted in this world. Reality doesn't have to be real. You listen to stories on the news, and sometimes it has no connection to reality, because it's all about how things are misconstrued and things are described by the person who's portraying the reality. It comes with their own sense, or their own understanding, which is not necessarily the truth. Imagine when you receive a text message from somebody. How often does it happen that we get a text message and we completely misunderstand the message that the person is trying to relate? It goes right over our heads, the actual reality of what we're trying to give over to the other person. Screen time replacing family time. Entertainment and sports is higher than study and morals. All these are things that are examples. These are all examples of our distorted priorities, distorted realities we have in today's world. Spiritually, this also means that because we're in a state of sleep, because we're in exile, spiritually, we also have this mixed up sense of priorities. Things that should flow from one to the other don't necessarily flow. So we can be in an exciting state. We can get up in the morning, we can put on tefillin, we can pray to God, we can feel very holy and connected at that moment. And then as soon as we finish praying, we can completely forget about our prayers and then focus on things that are the opposite, complete opposite of our prayers. How is this possible? How can we go from one extreme to the other in just a moment? How can we leave behind everything that was so important to us just a moment ago and now have a completely different focus than we had? The answer is we're dreaming. Our priorities are all mixed up because we're in this state of sleep. But although that sounds very negative, there's a positive side to it too. Because we can also use this for our own good, our own spiritual growth. Because here you could have a person who does things sometimes we make mistakes, we do things that are not in the spiritual sense. And in just a moment, we can turn it all around. We're not limited by the reality of just a moment ago. Even though a moment ago we were not in a very high spiritual state, we can change that all just instantly by completely changing our outlook, by completely looking from a new perspective, coming with a new sense of priority. We're able to change all that. And we're able to now come in a renewed state, in an elevated state, and connect spiritually on the right level. And this is the value of our current state of slumber. But of course, it's not our goal. It's not what we're looking for. Ultimately, our goal is to get out of this slumber. Our goal is to wake up, to come to the redemption, to come to a time where we leave behind all these false senses of everything that we have today, all these false realities that we have today. Where we come to a time where we live the truth, where we live the reality, and this will come very, very soon with the coming of Mashiach. It happened even before Hanukkah, which is coming in just a couple of days. And so something for us to do this week, a little exercise for the week, which is, especially since we're coming to the week of Hanukkah, which is a great time to add in light and to add in a renewed commitment to holiness. But this week, pay some attention to priorities. Take a moment, figure out what are our real priorities in life, and figure out a way how we can keep to those priorities, how we can keep ourselves from getting sidetracked, from getting pulled in different directions, and be able to hold on to our priorities in life. And with this preparation, it will surely bring us to the redemption, to the moment where we'll be awake, where we'll get up and be able to greet Mashiach in a state of awakeness, in a state of full comprehension, in a full ability to connect with everything that we see around us.